Welcome back. I'm glad you're back to share some more discussions here. And today's episode, I almost forgot. If you can subscribe, that would be cool. And I hope you're enjoying the show. In some ways, I wish you could all be here on a couch. Wouldn't that be cool? And you say, Roy, what the hell are you talking about? I don't understand it. Can you go into some more detail? As it's hard. I'm befriending a camera right now, which is okay. But the camera's not asking me anything. I see my own reflection in it sometimes. So it'd really be fun to sit at a couch and just share something, have some wine and talk a little deeper. But you know what? I have to say I'm doing the best I can, befriending the camera and trying to get my thoughts out to you. And today it's a very important topic because it deals with care and love. And for so many years I called this maintenance. And I have to say, I wrote a book called The No Maintenance Perennial Garden. And it was a play on words. It's K-N-O-W. It was the idea, know it before you do it so you can make a commitment to care for what you're doing. Because people put in gardens romantically and they just had no time or knowledge of how to care for anything they did. And they were put in so eclectically based on romance of plant. It was such a hodgepodge of plants that even if you had the time, you couldn't care for it because everything was out of control so quickly. So I was sitting with Rick Dark in Minneapolis, and we were having some Scottish eggs. I never had a Scottish egg. They're very good. They're with bacon and some sausage, I think, inside. So he goes, Roy, why did you use maintenance on your book? And I explained to him the play on words. And he said, don't you think stewardship would be better? And I thought about it, stewardship. And I like that. I really like what Rick brought up. So we changed our whole system at Northwind. We don't maintain gardens anymore. We're stewards of the gardens. And I found when I talked to people, none of the clients really wanted to get involved with maintenance. They said, do whatever you do, Roy, you're okay. Yeah, we want to take care of this. Well, maintenance fee is fine. I said, well, we have a stewardship program, and some of the folks would say, stewardship? How can I help? And I thought, wow. I just changed the language a little bit, and all of a sudden now they want to get involved in their own gardens because there's something about the word stewardship that brings you into play with wanting to contribute. So stewardship is the nurturing and care of the planting simply from youth to maturity. And on the next image you see the key is water and rainfall. It still rains everywhere we are in this temperate zone, but rain falls at different amounts. Roughly in our area from June, July, and August, we get anywhere from 3 to 3.5 inches per month. But the way the rain occurs has changed. We have much heavier storms, and we have periods of drought in between the storms, and we have more violent storms. So we still averaged about 3 to 3.5 inches of rain, but we got that maybe 2 rain events, maybe 3 for the month, instead of summer showers like we used to have. So, and you see the value of water even on this one photo on the cover of the Chicago Tribune. Water is a resource that we have to pay close attention to and understand better. And the next picture you see, the sprinklers that are being designed are much, much, much more efficient. And a lot of the best sprinkler heads are coming from Israel because of their concern and use of water. They're developing some beautiful sprinkling heads where you can control the amount of water. So I would check with your local irrigation person and ask them to see some of the new sprinklers and timers they have. And the other component is tools. You can see a seed drill using the Dutch push-pull hole from DeWitt. It's a transformational moment in my life when I found the Dutch push-pull hole from DeWitt. Because it's simply, I don't have to bend over when I use it. I'm standing upright, I can reach. It has a 72-inch handle. And you can see in the next image, I created a hoeing plan with the Dutch push-pull hoe. We hoe 1,000 square feet in 75 to 85 minutes. We have hoeing windows through the season as the weeds are actively growing from mid-April to mid-June. We hoe every 2 weeks. We cut the leaves, the weeds, we leave them lay there. And you're going to say, what about perennial weeds? The Dutch hoe cannot control quackgrass, Canadian thistle, and bindweed, but we can wear out dandelions simply because when you hoe them off, they'll push up new growth, we hoe them off again, they push up new growth, we hoe them off again, And by that time, the foliage of the plants comes up. And when you reduce the foliage, when you reduce sunlight hitting soil to 1,500 to 1,000 foot candles of light, it's difficult for agricultural weed seeds to germinate. So by mid-June to late June, the plants are now becoming more and more responsible for their own well-being. They're covering the earth, they're shading out the soil, reducing the foot candles of light, they're knitting together tightly, and they're knitting together joyfully because of the way you've placed them based on growth rate and growth habit. And in the next picture, you can see mowing. We are now mowing the gardens and leaving the litter in the garden. I started this in Delavan, Wisconsin in 2003, in 2008. And then I brought it up to the Lurie Garden in Millennium Park, and they started mowing, I think, in 2010. And that evolution of mowing the garden went from, I think, 120 hours to clean the garden, or 130 hours. They took it to 6 hours with a mower. And people would think, what about compaction? What about, you're only riding the mower on at one time and you're done. It's not a constant travel back and forth. But Laura at Lurie Garden, who we'll meet later, in fact, I'm going to be there next week, they're cutting back the garden. She's cutting back the garden by hand, which is a little more time consuming, but they're cutting it back and using string trimmers. They're cutting it back to leave hollow stem plants for native bees to lay eggs in. And I don't fully understand it or have the knowledge of it because, again, I'm not a knowledgeist of anything, but I'm fascinated by this. And we're going to film that and continue to learn and pass it on. And they're also doing this at the Brooklyn Bridge Park with Rebecca, who's a horticulturalist there. She's doing all kinds of creative ways of cutting plants back. In fact, she's even leaving foliage on the plants and letting them come up through their old foliage. So be creative, be thoughtful, take a chance and try things. And you can see the Lurie Garden, Laura came up with that very creative sign to explain to people why they leave debris. And then you can see Jesus at our Northwind, we mow everything with a walk-behind mower called a billy goat. And I can cut plants down that are 5 feet tall, herbaceous plants that are 5 feet tall. It's a one-cycled engine. And we have a mulching blade on there. And we go over the garden 5 or 6 times, and we leave all the litter and the debris, and then the plants happily come up and joyfully come up through the litter. You can see a mertensia in the next image emerging through the litter, and then we interplant that. We put bulbs in the fall, and the bulbs give you that early spring entertainment that people are looking for. People want to see something quickly. The bulbs do that, and the litter becomes a beautiful backdrop for the blues and yellows and whites of the bulbs, and you can put 2 or 3 bulb layers in that can take you with bulb color all the way through the emerging perennials into mid-June. Another important component is the mulch we use. We use local leaf mulch from the city of Fontana. They tub grind their leaves, and we put leaf mulch around a lot of the new plantings we do. In fact, all the new plantings we do, we mulch with local leaves. You can see that in the next image. And then after we mulch 1, possibly 2 years, then we would just mow the garden and let the plants live in their own litter. But some places I can't get away with that because people are not ready to let plants live in their litter. So we would mow the garden, we throw the debris back in the garden, and we cover it with maybe a 1/2 inch to 3/4 or 1 inch of leaf mulch. It's just we have a culture that grew up loving mulch. So it's important for people now to feel good about spring by seeing mulch around their plants. And then the leaf mulch disappears, plants grow over it, and we don't have as much nitrogen buildup as you would with other mulches that would be applied, so our plants don't get too leggy and fall over by enriching the soil too much. So we run at a lean soil. And you can see the planting that was newly done, and the next image shows you that planting a year later. And we mowed the whole garden this spring already, and we've had a little light snowfall over. We cut everything back in March before the bulbs come up. And the cool part about that is, it's not that I want people to buy things. I'm not telling you not to spend your money. Just maybe you could spend your money more thoughtfully. And you'll see this next image, we don't need to buy all these bags of wood anymore. It just doesn't make any sense to buy 6 cubic feet of wood and spread it around your plants and do more harm to your plants, not doing anything beneficial. So the money you have, find more thoughtful ways to use it and do something healthier for your garden, or put the money into maybe do a new kitchen, do something, or to remodel your basement. There's other ways to do it. And the last picture shows you the aggressive nature of turf grass seeding into a garden and spreading through oxidizing wood. There's nothing healthier. Turf grass loves oxidizing wood. It has the energy to send rhizomes through it quickly. It has the nutrients to support a healthy life. And that turf grass seeds into the garden simply because the mowing company doesn't mow the edge of the garden. They don't want to get the deck into the garden. And that grass will flower and seed at the edge of the garden. And all those seeds are going to flow into your garden. And turf grass has been hybridized to seed at 100% germination rate. And then once it germinates, it's hybridized to spread quickly to create a closed community in turf. So it's very rhizomatous and knits together quickly. And those rhizomes will spread through all the crowns of all your perennials. So you can see the advantage wood mulch gives to seed, which has the advantage of seeding to your garden simply because it's not being cut weekly by your mowing company. So we are involved in care and nurturing with everything, every day, in everything we do. We have to care and nurture everything. I have to take the sweater to the dry cleaners. I got to put treatments on my beautiful Red Wing boots. You got to put air in your tire. Everything we do has to be cared for. And Jerry Wilhelm, who I want all of you to get to know, he wrote Flora of the Chicago region. I think I might have mentioned before, it's every plant that grows in Chicago, and it's every plant that grows in Chicago with every plant that relates to every plant that grows in Chicago. And Laura has every insect relationship to every plant that grows in Chicago in this book. So look it up. But Jerry Wilhelm shared this with me. We're discussing a remnant prairie, and we were looking at this remnant prairie, walking through it. And he had this one comment he made. He said, Roy, he said, that which is loved is beautiful, and that which is beautiful is loved. And I always remember that moment. That which is loved is beautiful, and that which is beautiful is loved. And I think about that when we walk through the gardens, when we put new plantings in. And sometimes you go, God, Roy, you're that corny. Love, you talk like love, but it's the truth. All of you out there love to be loved, love to be cared about, love to be listened to, love to share with. Love is a word. You can't avoid it. There's no reason to avoid it. And I always remember that moment with Jerry, and I thought I'd share that with you. And then maybe you'd find a moment to share that with others. So I'll see you later. Thanks for this opportunity today. Take care of yourself, and remember to subscribe. We'll see you next time.